Hi friends, welcome to today's episode of /ProRevenge. In today's episode, we have 3 different stories. One is of a neighbor who thinks that they are entitled to their neighbor's parking lot and their neighbor decides to teach them a lesson. The second is an owner who does not want to pay their employees and in the end they have to pay a hefty sum for that. And in the final one, a student thinks they can outsmart their professor. It's going to be a wild ride today. So strap on and welcome here. This story is titled, Neighbors Kept Parking in Our Lot, I Froze Them Out. This happened around 20 years ago. Our family owned 2 apartment buildings, 3 units each. We lived in 2 of them and rented out the other 4. There's nothing but these 3 flats lining both sides of the road up for about a mile. Not all have parking. On the side streets are houses and very little street parking. We had more land than most of these units, since it was also our home. So we had parking for around 16 cars. Everything was fine for literally decades. Then cars started appearing in our parking lot that were not our tenant. I blocked one in one day. Went outside to see this a-hole driving through our bushes and across the yard to get out. I called the cops. Nothing they could do. So I called a tow company and had them put up signs. We'd have to call them to have a car towed. The signs seemed to work. No more random cars. Until New Year's Eve one year, I arrived home and every space is filled. There are even cars on the streets blocking in the other cars. I'm beyond pissed. I called the tow company. They can't do anything for another few hours because they were so busy. We're in the Chicago suburbs. It's below 0 out. I have an idea. I dig out the lawn sprinklers and hoses. I run one hose inside to the laundry room faucet and turn on the hot water. This way, the hose and sprinklers won't ice up. But the cars and ground sure did. 3 sprinklers moved every half hour or so for almost 5 hours. Every car, every square inch of the parking lot, the street by the cars encased in ice. I made it a point to spray ice in the locks between the window sills and glass, in the grills, put away the sprinklers and hoses, then went to bed. At 4 a.m., there was furious pounding on the doors, doorbells ringing non-stop. We just smiled and called the cop. We waited until they arrived and went outside. Cops were holding back laughter. These people were told to park here by their friend who owned an apartment several buildings away. The same idiot who drove over our bushes. I pointed to the tow sign and told the people to move their cars or get towed. In our town, cops can ticket on private property with the owner's permission, so all the cars were ticketed. They were also towed since nobody could get in their vehicle. Wish we had it on video. This is an intriguing one. I don't know how I feel about this. I understand that probably OP was really mad. So it's quite funny how it ended. But I can also imagine the other people's feelings because I don't think they had an idea of whether they were parking. They were just guests who were parking in a location where their friend told them to park. But it was still must have been really sweet for OP to have done this. What do you think, guys? Please comment down below what you think about that story and how OP reacted. What would you have done if you were the people who found yourself iced in this location? This story is titled, Owners Didn't Want to Give Me What I Deserved. Now they're about to lose a $3 million contract because I resigned. I am a young project manager for an unlimited commercial GC. I picked up a hammer for the first time 6 years ago with no prior experience. I was raised believing if you work hard and apply yourself, you'll be successful. For 2 years, I learned everything that I could in the construction industry. I took my work home with me and studied my own time to better myself. For that, I was promoted to foreman. I was brought in to take over a small project at a 12-building, 120-unit condo complex. It started small, and the board of directors for the HOA told me they loved my professionalism, work ethic, and ability to complete projects on time and under budget. We won a big contract because of that small project. That was 3 years ago. I have since taken over the job of foreman, superintendent, and a project manager. I do the billing, meetings with engineers and board members, scheduling, takeoff, material ordering. I even train the subs on application of new product because we didn't have enough mid-management. The project just passed $12.7 million. We got a bid request for another $3 million job in the same complex. All the while, the board of directors telling me how appreciative they are and how they've gone through 5 different contractors in the years before committing to my company because of my management and quality of work. This boosted my confidence, and I went to the owners asking for a raise they promised 1 year ago for my production. They told me, the experience you're gaining is far more valuable. I said, "You're right." I put my resume on public, got contacted by a headhunter, and just accepted an offer this week for 80K a year salary, full benefits, 28 days PTO including holidays, in the office now, no more working from the field, fully in my own truck, laptop, Wi-Fi in my truck for on-the-go billing when I visit the out-of-state projects, $8 per DM, 100% matching for 1K for the first 3 years of my employment, quarterly bonus programs. The company I'm with now only pays 40K, and that's it. None of the above listed benefits. The final nail in the coffin was when the owners bragged about how much my project made in the company meeting and then denied me a Christmas bonus. I laid this offer on their desk Friday and watched their jaws hit the floor. I told the HOA board president of the project I'm running about my resignation when they couldn't match my offer. His eyes got big and requested a meeting with the owners and expressed serious concern about moving forward with the new project without my involvement. They don't have anyone to replace me, and I'm not gonna lie, it feels good to hurt their pockets when I gave everything I had for 6 years and only asked for a median project manager salary. Dark those greedy bastards. This is intriguing. I can imagine what the feelings that went OP had throughout this process. I also would have jumped ship if I just asked for a small raise and all you can tell me is experience is better than money. Experience doesn't pay my bills, does it? And also, why would you brag about an amount I made the company and then deny me a Christmas bonus? That made no sense. I'd also get angry and find a new job ASAP, as OP did. So I think the owners had what's coming for them. What do you think, guys? What would you have done in OP's shoes? Would you have also gone the same route? Would you just have kept quiet and given your notice and walked out? I'm intrigued. What do you think? This story is titled, "Cheating Student Thought He Had Me Fooled and Fell Right Into My Trap." So, I am a cancer researcher and a guest professor at a university's School of Medicine, teaching my specialty, imaging. Besides the usual acquisitions of medical images during MRI, CT, etc., imaging has a lot to do with image processing. Some days I'm just a glorified programmer or IT guy, and as anyone who's ever programmed anything will tell you, coding is a very personal activity. With enough experience, you can tell who wrote what just by looking at the lines. I'm also in my late 20s and I'm not naive to this country, and it's my first year as guest professor. So some students look at me as this inexperienced, gullible foreign guy. As part of my module's grading, the students have to submit 2 reports that weigh 10% each of their final grade. These reports are about image processing and they have to code a fair bit. As usual, there are students that make an effort, some do minimal work, and then some cheat or copy. As I was grading the reports, I noticed a small group of students who found reports from previous years online and literally copy-pasted those reports, changing only the name. It was a facepalm moment because those reports were not even good and had a lot of errors. You see, in order to establish a baseline for my grading, I browsed previous year's reports so I knew what to expect from the students of this module. Naturally, I graded them all with 0 and kept working my way through grading the reports I had left. Meanwhile, the students casually asked me in the halls how the reports were. Of course, I can't comment on that until I release the grades. One time, this dude who has copied from another report, 98% match on plagiarism checker, asks me when I will release the grades and comes up with a story that he worked really hard on his reports, that his exam hasn't gone so well, and he's hoping that the grade on his reports are enough to get a pass. I mean, submitting another person's work as your own is very wrong, but it was an online submission and impersonal. Right now, he was just lying through his teeth and to my face. I could feel my blood boiling, but I didn't lose my composure and decided to come up with a plan. I knew that my exam was the last exam of the semester, and that after that, the students usually go home or family vacations while they wait for their grades to be posted online. So I graded the exams and input their grades into my Excel with their report grades. 4 students had 0 due to cheating on their reports, and if graded the reports with 50% of the max grade, they would barely fail the module, but they would fail nonetheless. So it was on. In order to be fair, I bumped everyone else's grade. A bunch of people with miserable reports ended up barely passing because of my grade bump. But even though their reports were bad, it was their own work and not copied from anywhere. You see, students are entitled to make an appointment to review their grades after publishing and before the grades are locked for the year. Basically, They sit with me, we go through their exam and reports, and their goal is to convince me to give them extra points in hope that they pass the module. I knew the cheaters would come, after all. They think they fooled me once already, and they still have half the report points to bargain for, so I just waited for their emails. Lo and behold, they write me the same day the grades go online, saying how hard they had worked on their reports and that they don't understand how they only got 50%, and they wanted an appointment. I was ecstatic. Sure, let's review your grades. Do you remember that my exam was the last one? Well, they were already on vacations, some very far away, and begged for an online appointment. No can do. University policy. Moreover, you have 3 days to show for your appointment, otherwise the grades are locked. Also university policy. So here they come, cutting their vacations short and catching planes. Some spent hours in buses and trains to make it on time. I know what many of you are thinking. They come, I show them the plagiarism checker results and reveal that I know that it is not their work and send them on their way. Well, I considered it, but I had something better in mind. Those appointments usually take 10 minutes. I show them their work with my notes on what's wrong or right, and they try to find some inconsistencies in my grading and bargain for more points. I ain't giving you the opportunity. So one by one, they sit with me individually and I go through their exam and reports. Remember that they copied the reports and copied bad ones with a lot of errors? I ask questions. Lots of them. Like, why did you do this? What is your reasoning for this? They don't know. It's not their work. They mumble random stuff because they don't know what to answer. Point by point, mistake by mistake, I explain why it was wrong, how it should be done, lecturing the same material they had already been lectured on during class. I make it long, I make it boring, I make it painful. I spent hours with each one of them throughout those 3 days. They always came with the same, I worked so hard on this, and a little smirk on their face because they thought that it should be really easy to fool me. The gullible foreign again. As the hours go by and I'm walking through the errors one by one, I could see their expression change. Little by little, their hopes of passing being slowly crushed. And when they realized that I knew they cheated and I wasn't going to give up any extra points. At this point, they tried to cut short their appointment and leave, and I wouldn't let them. We need to finish the review of your grades. It's university policy, I said, and I just kept going, extending their misery for 1 more hour or 2. It was legal torture, plain and simple. It was glorious. At the end, every single one of them left with a crushed soul look in their eyes and a fail in my class. They knew that I caught them, that I baited them, and they fell for it. They ruined their vacation and their family vacations, spent money to travel back and forth, wasted precious summertime, got bored to death, and have nothing to show for it. And next year, they'll have to repeat the module with me. I told them, hope you enjoy your summer. See you next year. OP comes back with an edit. This was the EU, not the US. Took the matter to my boss, who's their course director, and he told me to not report them because the university wants to avoid any kind of legal action at any cost. I couldn't even accuse them of cheating. Just some things I think I should have said. Oh, and loving the hate in some comments, by the way. Some are just name calling and others are very classy. Although there are a few that are way too long to read, so I'm sorry for that. Also, for those worried about my bump grades thing, I made a judgment call to bump some grades of some students who had a good exam and their report grade was pulling them down. They clearly knew the topics and studied. Their report was just not very good. So I decided that given that if it wasn't for the report they would pass, to bump it a bit to allow them to pass. Most of them went from failing at 49% to passing at 50% on their overall final grade. Wow. I'm guessing as a professor, you see the worst of the worst and also the best of the best. In this case, OP did a number on those students. The students thought that they could get away with it. Oh well, they couldn't. It's funny how the students thought that they could fool the professor just because they think they are inventing the wheel. I'm guessing they're not the first ones to cheat, they're not the last. And I'm sure most professors go back to previous years to look at content so that they can use that in their module creation and their course planning. That wasn't a good idea. Just too bad for them. I hope they learned their lesson. Thank you guys for tuning into today's episode. It was a pleasure having you. Don't forget to comment down below with any suggestions or comments for any of the stories from today. Thank you so much once more and hope to see you next time. Bye.